what's new in the neighborhood. Talking trash, driving for good. Serving up with that latest shit. It's NDKC Hot Dish.
Everyone watching, welcome. This is the Hot Dish, and we are the Artistic Committee of No Divide KC, a Kansas City-based nonprofit organization that brings awareness to social issues and causes through artistic expression. We are about those arts, baby, okay? And today we really want to have a discussion, artist to artist, about how we all have been navigating this new reality with COVID and quarantine and people not wearing their masks and all of that. And we just want you guys to kind of get to know us a little bit better, all right? So we are going to first start off with introductions. We're going to start off with the founder of No Divide KC. Give it up for Stacy Bush.
Hey, what's up? Super happy to be here. NDKC, Hot Dish. Yeah, this is awesome. Love all the new board members here on No Divide KC. They're bringing like all kinds of stuff to the party, and I'm super excited about that. I am a composer and performer based in Kansas City. I do different types of composing projects and electronic and live instrument setups. So that's a bit about me. And I'm also involved a lot in different arts nonprofit work around town. So thank you all for being here. I'm excited.
All right. Going on to you, JD.
Hi, everybody. I'm JD Daniel. I'm a composer, bass baritone, pianist, and writer based here in Kansas City, and I'm one of the new board members. I've been happy to be here so far. So a lot of the work that I do of late, because of COVID and I'm not able to sing as much, has been trying to keep up with my composing, and also, since it's at the Times, doing some more writing and research into racial justice and cultural appropriation in classical music. Thinking about maybe trying to put together some type of set of personal essays. A writer friend of mine recommended I do that, so I might be looking into that. Otherwise, I am grateful to still be able to sing a little bit, and that I, once or twice a month, I'm able to sing in a distance and risk mitigated setting at St. Mary's Episcopal Church. Otherwise, I'm just happy to be involved in No Divide KC, so I can still be involved in the arts.
All right. We're moving on to Tanit. What's up?
Hello, I'm Tanit. My pronouns are they and their, and I am a graphic designer and fine art painter. I do a lot of abstract art. I look at gender, presentation, and emotions, really. So abstract concepts into abstract art kind of makes perfect sense. And outside of No Divide KC, I do a lot with housing justice. I'm part of Rent Zero Kansas over on the Kansas side, where we are currently working to organize around a house guarantee platform and making sure that people aren't going to get kicked out on the streets because of COVID, because that's a big issue, not only on the Kansas side, but on the Missouri side as well. So I've been getting involved with that here in town.
Thank you, Tanit. We appreciate the work that you're doing. We're going to go over to Alexi. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right. Great to be here. I'm Alexi Savru. I'm a poet and artist. And I'm a new member of the board and artistic committee. I do a lot of work with poetry and like expanded media, like a lot of graphic stuff and photo manipulation and photography and videography. Of late, I've been impacted by COVID in the sense that a lot of my teaching jobs were canceled. That were in person, like at community centers and community colleges and things like that. But thankfully, I have been able to, a lot of my shows have moved to online, and I've seen an increase in book sales as well. That's been great. So I'm hanging in there. I'm getting by, and I'm psyched to be here. And my work tends to be involved with philosophy and satire and weird stuff. But yeah, great to be here.
Great, we're glad to have you here. and Katarina.
Hi, my name is Katarina. I'm really glad to be here as well. I came a little bit late, but that's fine. That's just, the Hispanic person in me. I can never be on time to anything. So my work, I was traditionally trained in printmaking. And my work revolves a lot around sexual identity, sexual kinks, and sex workers. I previously used to be one. I mean, still kind of am. You're never really out of that scene. How I've been impacted by COVID as of late, since a printmaker, I'm used to going into studios and interacting with people. A lot of my work deals with me always having constant open communication. When making my work, I want to have that open dialogue with other individuals. But I've been trying to find different ways, whether it's going onto social media or different streaming platforms, still trying to have that open dialogue, hearing from other people within like the sex work community or kink community on how they've been expressing themselves and how they've been coping. And I specifically joined No Divide KC because, I would like to, find other ways to expand myself and, help other individuals through art. I feel like art is a very powerful medium in trying to convey ideas and, spread a message and awareness about certain topics that might, normally would be faded into the background. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Katarina. And Cody.
Hi, my name is Cody Call, he, him pronouns. I'm another co-founder of No Divide KC. Got my master's at UMKC, but I'm currently living in Chicago. I'm thankful enough to have a day job as a web developer, but my passion is digital media art, multimedia art, collaborating with other artists. I do a lot of collaborating with visual artists, spoken word artists, performing artists. In my personal art, I pair found sound and video with the intimacy of the human voice and finding the intricacies in which they can interact.
Nice, nice. And I am Nita. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a self-taught musician, music producer, and singer-songwriter. I do music that is based off the human experience. I believe that everything we go through makes us who we are and helps push us to become better people. And I like to write about that in my music. I use genres such as R&B, pop, hip hop, and I find a way to combine all of those sounds and many, many more together to form the basis of my identity. And I'm happy to be hosting this. I'm happy to be here with all you. I'm also chair of the artistic committee, and I'm happy to have that position. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you and building this brand and really making an impact on our community and keeping the arts alive, especially at a time like this where so much has happened and so many people have been impacted by this. So we are going to discuss that a little bit further and really kind of dig into each of our own experiences with the quarantine life and COVID. And so we're going to resume here in a minute with part 2. All right, so this is part 2 of the hot dish. And like I said before, COVID has really come in and just made a mess. And it's time to dish about that, share your experience, share how you are navigating this, and also how you're getting through. And if there's anything that you're working on, share that as well, all right? And we're going to start again in the same order. Miss Stacy.
Hey, everybody, hot dish part 2. So yeah, COVID, well, it's still happening. Here we are in August of 2020, and you're living in the United States. Things aren't great. And so, yeah, this is kind of an interesting time for me in the arts. Like August is usually a very busy month, gearing up for the art season, which is kind of fall, winter, spring. This is usually the time when everything is starting and we're launching new seasons and everything's going on. And that has come kind of screeching to a halt. I'm the operations manager for a dance company called Owen Cox Dance Group, and we are moving everything virtually. So for my consistent kind of paycheck that I receive, things are getting very tight, and I don't know how, I will be able to continue getting the same amount of hours that I am used to getting, especially now when I usually have a lot of hours to fill. So that's a little nerve-wracking. Also, this is kind of the time when I am, organizing my year and figuring out commissions and how everything's going to work. And I kind of get a little landscape of where money is coming from in terms of all my projects. And that is also not really happening. So it's probably the most frightening I think I've felt since the quarantine began, because at the beginning I kind of had projects that I was finishing and they got kind of moved to different places, but I could still, pick up those funds and finish those projects. And I was still getting consistent hours for a while there. And now starting into this season, it's a lot more shaky. But on the upside, I would have said to many people that the most exciting thing about quarantine for me in my career is No Divide, because we have really done a lot of things this year. We've really grown. This has kind of been a very big year for us. And we are lucky that we are small enough that we haven't had significant losses in our finances, because we don't have to pay for things like rent or large expenses that a lot of other organizations have. So we've been able to help out and, give advancements in pay to our visual artists and still move through our season and schedule things. Obviously, we've picked up a lot of new board members, which is thrilling, and we can come up with a lot of different types of different programming like this virtual programming. That's awesome. So I'm super excited about the possibilities for No Divide KC, which, if you're just tuning in now, we are an arts nonprofit that creates artistic events for social causes. Anything from benefit concerts to documentary series, live events. We do it all, and we kind of scatter between whatever area of interest in the community that we find that we can give back to. So we've done things for children with developmental delays. When the 2016 election had happened, we did a benefit concert where all proceeds went to organizations working in immigration and various things like this. And so this year we're launching our first Queer Narratives Festival, which I'm just super excited about. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about it. I think it's just a lot of stress in terms of the hard line, where's the paycheck and what's really the future for that. But it's also been really creatively interesting to come up with new things and to see and to remember how important the arts are in our community, and that we are, essential workers, if you want to use that phrase, that this is a time where arts are really needed. And this is a time where artists are there on the front lines of our community, giving back and expressing all of our feelings. And this is really the time where it's so valuable to be a part of the arts and when we're really needed. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag.
All righty. Thank you, Stacey. JD?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I am still able to do a little bit of singing in a distance risk mitigated setting. But for me, that was one of the main things that I did was sing, and I mainly do choral singing around town. And Kansas City is a great town for that. There are a lot of really great professional and semi-professional choirs. So I was singing with groups like Contract KC, Te Deum, KC Vitas, and Cardinales. And then I performed one really, really, really great concert with Cardinales in March, just as things are starting to get bad. And then sort of the rug was ripped out from under the choral community in this town, and we just lost everything, and we weren't sure, because singing is considered so high risk with COVID, that we didn't know how can we still sing together and make that work, because when you're not in the same room with each other to hear the acoustics in tune with each other, it's so hard to sing as a group. So I have gotten to do a couple cool projects with today, and we did do kind of like a virtual a cappella multi-track thing where we all recorded ourselves singing a part to a choral piece separately, and then a technician went in and edited all of that and smoothed that out and made that sound really good together. But of course, that doesn't compare to being in the same room with each other. Like choral singing for me has been like a form of therapy, really, and it's where I make friends and make connections. So that has been really hard. For the most part, I think I've gotten used to it just because I've sort of accepted that this is where we are right now, and I do get to still sing once or twice a month at St. Mary's, and I've been really thankful to be able to do that. And so I try to like have my own little jam sessions. Like I have a housemate, so I don't want to disturb him, and he works from home right now. So I'll like sit in my car, just parked, and play old recordings that I've been a part of with any of those groups, and listen to that and sing along with that and reminisce in it, in the hopes that I can maybe go back to it. As a composer, it hasn't affected me too much, just because I don't tend to write for large ensembles. I do really, really like writing for choir, so I'm not able to really write for choir right now, but I also really like to write for soloists. I really like to write classical songs, so something that's just a vocalist and one instrument. And so I was able to do some of that this summer in a workshop that ended up being completely virtual, but a pianist and vocalist all the way up in Canada, where things are much better, were able to get together and record a new piece that I was able to write in collaboration with a poet friend, and that was really, really amazing to be able to do. I am on furlough from my job at the Kaufman Center for Performing Arts here in town. Unfortunately, the majority of the box office staff have had to be furloughed indefinitely, and now pretty much all the big arts organizations in town, the Opera, Ballet, Symphony, and then the Kaufman Center, where all that is hosted, got together and decided for the rest of 2020, we're just not going to be having any more events. So I've been job searching and did a lot of interviews this week, so that's been a pick-me-up for me. Had like, I think 6 interviews all of a sudden just handed to me and offered to me, so hopeful to see where that may go. And I feel like with the pandemic, a lot of my work now has been writing related or advocacy related, especially with everything that's been going on. Educating myself, reading more, listening to the voices that need to be listened to, and also trying to reckon with the way that this is accelerated cultural change. Like lots of changes happen really, really fast. I think the way that we talk about things like race relations has changed very, very fast, mostly in a good way, and I'm happy to see that progress. And so that's kind of influenced the way that I've been talking and thinking and writing and doing my own inner work in that area. And I am disabled and I live with mental illnesses, and so that has been difficult in this time, but it's also gotten me to reckon with doing that type of inner work and thinking about how do we rely on each other in a community, because we have to rely on each other more than ever now. How do we feel connected? How do we hold ourselves and hold each other responsible? How do we still do that with compassion? How do we go about accountability with compassion? So yeah, it's been some interesting learning processes that I certainly could have never expected. And I'm thankful for a lot of it. And also really, really, really want to get back to singing and doing everything the way I was able to do it before.
All right, thank you, and good luck to you, JD. Tanith.
Hello. As I said before, I'm a fine artist, and last year I made the decision to become an artist full-time. So I was working at a call center, and that didn't work out. And like, it was one of those situations where, while it was a higher paying job, because it was so far away from where I lived, like I couldn't afford to go to work, sort of thing. Like I couldn't afford to get gas. I couldn't afford, the drive to and from. And so I just was like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't sort of situation. And so this was before COVID even hit. And so I made a radical decision to pursue painting full time. And I started like getting my work in galleries and people seeing my work and getting commissions. But when COVID hit, it was like a stopgap in all of that. Galleries were all closing down because of high risk. You had a lot of people together. People were losing jobs. So nobody could commission you or spend money because, they had to keep a roof over their head or put food in their stomach or go to get healthcare or whatever the case may be. And I am all for that. Please survive, stay alive, and we'll get you next time. Like, make it through this, and we'll be there. Sort of thing. And so a lot of my art has just kind of been really focused on self-care. So I use it as a form of art therapy, which I think is going to be a bit of a theme for all of us. But it really was able to showcase to myself how I was feeling, what did those feelings look like, especially when I couldn't find the words to express myself. Writing is not a forte of mine, but like use of color and shape and movement and texture is. So I was able to articulate myself in a way that I was like just wrestling inside of my gut, like, what are these feelings? And turns out it was anger and grief and anxiety and all of these things going through me. So that's really where my art has been at this point in time. But like, luckily there's galleries who are adopting virtual shows. I was recently a part of Interurban Art Houses, June, July queer experience, which No Divide actually was a cohort in. They helped sponsor and produce and put on. And that was really cool. So I did that for about a month. So that was really neat to be able to showcase my work in that way and to reach out in that way. And I know like earlier before we started getting down to business, we were talking about LinkedIn, but I've been using LinkedIn a lot to promote my art, which is a weird thing because it's not how people use LinkedIn in any way, but it's my business and it's my professional, breadwinner check making, livelihood. And so I've been using LinkedIn in a way that it's traditionally not used. And I've actually gotten a few bites from it, which was surprising because nobody uses it like that to be like, hey, I'm having an art sale. Hey, commission me. Hey, look at this cool stuff. So that was a surprise. So who knows? Maybe for other people, LinkedIn might be another viable resource. Who knows? But also, per the introduction I did, I've really gotten into housing justice. A lot of my friends, especially who rent, who are tenants, have been deeply, deeply affected by COVID, and myself included. And so I got involved with a group called Rent Zero Kansas. I heard of them through KC Tenants, which is a really big tenant organization in the Kansas City metro area. And we worked together quite a bit, especially like in the KC area. But we've been, petitioning our state government and trying to get things started locally, not only here in the Kansas City area, but Lawrence and Wichita and Topeka, and even trying to go further west into rural Kansas, because those people are affected as well. And so it's become a really because housing justice is so intersectional to racial justice, gender justice, disability justice, you name it, like everything's tied into housing. And having a roof over your head should be guaranteed. Like there's no reason why no one should have a roof over their head or why they should be afraid to lose their home. No one should be afraid to be kicked out, especially from a landlord or a bank. Right now during COVID, we have a public health crisis and they're still kicking people out on the street when we have stay-at-home orders. It doesn't work. Those two things don't compute. So that's been a big part of my time. I've been learning a lot from the Homes Guaranteed platform, from People's Action. And it's just been really enlightening. And I think like JD, learning a lot, reading a lot, understanding a lot about myself and about others, and understanding what community actually is and connecting with other people and being intimate and vulnerable are two powerful things that, I think we've been told for a long time, like, no, don't do that. Don't show anybody who you really are. But now I'm like, yeah, let's show each other. Let's cry. Let's laugh. Let's have a good time and live through the bad times together. We have each other to lean on.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanith. And we're going to go over to Alexi now. Hey.
Hey, so first of all, to comment on the LinkedIn thing, I have seen people use it for that, so you're not alone, and it does work. For me, with regards to COVID, I think you'd have to go back, honestly, to the pre-COVID days, like January and December, and that basically like a couple of months prior to COVID, I was living on the streets, and I literally was able to get an apartment in South Kansas City without a Missouri ID, I might add. And without any kind of credit score, and it's a fairly decent place. Um, literally like 4 days before the stay-at-home order took effect. So that was a tremendous gift in itself. And I didn't even know it was coming. I mean, when I was out, on the streets, every day you're just kind of getting by. But artistically, I'd say, one of the biggest hits for me was, as I mentioned briefly earlier, was when I had a whole slew of teaching gigs lined up, probably starting in April and continuing on contract like all the way through next year. Teaching poetry, videography, English, art history, those sorts of things. And they just all got canceled on me. And that represents a big financial loss for sure. What I have been, but then a lot of things got transferred to the digital platform as well. So I've been I just did Fringe Fest in the Performing Arts and the Visual Arts. I've done work with the Urban Art House. I've done work with all kinds of galleries and arts nonprofits and studios remotely. In open studios, and they've been able to pay me, thankfully. So I have been able to stay afloat, and my book sales have been better than normal, which is interesting. One thing that I think has been a real saving grace for me has been how much I've found that things like Instagram really can connect the artistic community and keep us in support and in contact with each other when we're not constantly in close physical proximity. Personally, I haven't been hugged in probably over 6 months. I haven't really left the immediate area since February. Part of it's I don't have a car. I'm not a person of means. And I was doing when I was homeless, I was working at a Jimmy John's. Got laid off from that, and I didn't have a way to get back there because on the other side of town, and it just wasn't really worth it to me. It's been tough, but as I always tell people that in every storm there's an invincible summer inside you. So I don't know. I've been using this time. I do. I've done a lot of. I do a lot of reading. I've stayed connected with folks. Do some Zoom stuff. And I get to explore different sides of my old artistic pursuits. I've picked up music again, and it's been interesting because I haven't touched an instrument prior to the stay-at-home order in probably a decade. So it's been nice to revisit different things and do some experimentation. And I've also turned more to writing because that's been another source of income, like arts journalism and freelance journalism and monetized blogging and things of that nature. But I'm certainly missing human contact, but I'm glad, it would have been an absolute, it would have been really a completely different situation if this had happened even 15 years ago. So I'm thankful that we're able to have these conversations because 15 years ago, this couldn't have happened. So.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll go to Katerina next.
Like how I was describing kind of in the beginning, a lot of my work deals with talking with people directly, face to face, having open conversations. Before my artistic practices, I would often go to venues or locations where people within the kink community or the sex community would meet up together, and we would all go have drinks and talk, and there I would be able to get my information, get first person's perspective of how people experiment with their sexuality. And now obviously that has kind of gone kaput, and I had to find other ways, and using social media apps like Alexi and Tanith had mentioned, using Instagram has been very useful, but recently I've been using Twitch. And Twitch has really opened me up to not only people within the local community, but also I have been opened up to people overseas and hearing about how they've been experiencing sort of how they've been navigating intimacy, relationships, and their sexuality through the internet, and how that's been working out. I've even by going on to all these different sort of social media platforms, seeing how some of these sex workers or people who who are patrons of them, how they've been navigating and using platforms like Zoom, Google Hangouts, and even as something as jokey as an OnlyFans, all these kind of sort of apps have opened up ways of, how we can change how that sex work narrative has been. It's whenever sex work has gone through some sort of big impact, whether it was SESTA and FOSTA or even COVID, it seems that there's always been a way that the community has found either to help each other out or how we adapt. And I always think it's kind of fascinating that that's always been the case. And so before, I was having kind of a hard time having people open up in person, but I feel now with that internet barrier, people have been more willing to talk and be open. Maybe it's not that intimidating factor face to face, but yeah, I feel I've gotten so much just more information than I ever thought I would have gotten before. And I thought by losing that sort of face to face interaction, I might lose that intimacy, but I still have gotten it. And making art about that, and having people see my art or while I'm making it, has even opened up that kind of conversation of how to turn these personal narratives into visual and just educating. And yeah, it's been an interesting experience with COVID. And personally with me and COVID as well, I am not originally from Missouri. I am from Florida, and especially since I mostly only really see my family during the holidays, it's going to be difficult. I was planning to see them in August, but that's still kind of up in the air, especially with Florida being one of the worst states at the moment, and it sucks. And especially my family, a lot of my family members are very much older, and having to hear them tell me stories of them going off to the supermarket and some person's just getting very aggressive and refusing to wear a mask, and having to hear that, it's not fun. And but I feel even with all these issues of being separated, I feel I've been able to be a little bit more open with my family. I think we're realizing that we're very lucky to still be okay and alive and have a roof over our heads and jobs, but yeah, we've just been more giving, been more open, and realizing that we're all very lucky, and if we have the opportunity to give and be, whether it's money, resources, we're all trying to, be more open when we realize how we weren't appreciating that when we had it. So yeah, that's my end.
Alrighty. Okay, everyone, just real quick so that we don't get kicked out, because I think it's starting to beep at me. If we can just end this real quick and then just join back in, so Cody, we don't interrupt you at all. Okay, is that okay? All right.
Yeah, like I said before, I have a full-time job as a full web developer, so I am very lucky to be working remote. I am not impacted financially in any way. My fiance and I both work from home. So really the only inconvenience I personally have is, us both working in the same spot and seeing each other all of the time. But there's honestly, many upsides to that as well. For me, my personal artistic inspiration comes from sensory experiences. I'm sure that's the way it is with everyone. And so, there is a lack of social contact with other people, finding inspiration from other people, other places. So I feel right now my well of inspiration is a little bit dry. So particularly as since I live in Chicago, there are even more restrict travel orders right now. There's a travel ban for if I go to basically half of the states in the US, I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks once I got back. So yeah, for me, I'm kind of just staying put mostly this summer and finding ways in which I can support other artists, whether that be No Divide, or I'm also on the board for the Kansas City Electronic Music and Arts Association. We are figuring out what it means in COVID to program electronic music events and navigating that. My fiance is a singer and involved in the musical arts community in Chicago, and finding ways in which she can still perform and interact with the public in various ways. But yeah, for me personally, my artistic inspiration, I feel like during chaos, I feel like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, here are all these things, and I'm kind of just frozen with that. For me, I guess my inspiration draws mostly from a more relaxed environment, let's say.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Cody, and good luck to you. Well, me, I have been working. I've been an essential worker, so I've been working a lot during this time. And my workload has been way more than I ever anticipated being. And that really impacted my creative spirit a little bit, you know, working long hours and trying to come home and create. My mind would just not always be there. I think earlier on, probably February, March, April, I felt more creative, more inspired. And in fact, I actually enrolled in like a class just for personal growth for music production online, and was really on track of doing that consistently. And I kind of fell back and slacked a little bit now, but I've spent this time really just trying to gain more skill and understanding and just better my craft. It's been difficult at times because I have bursts of creative, inspiration, and then there are moments when I just can't create at all. And I consider, instead of saying I have a creative or writer's block, I just call it a downloading period where I just rest and I just soak in all kinds of types of inspiration. I watch a lot of movies, I watch a lot of concerts, listen to different music, and do that until I feel inspired to create. And I was also like really involved in the Black Lives Matter movement and was out there protesting for a while. And there was a moment it was just too much because it hits very close to home, and I just had to take a break from it and just kind of focus on something that made me feel good instead of something that overwhelms me and stresses me out. And I want to find a way to incorporate my experience with that in my music. I'm struggling right now because it's a part of my existence that I just don't really like to really talk about because it hurts. And so I do like to express my experience as a human being, my thoughts, my feelings through my music. And this whole period has been a moment for me to really get in tune with myself, which I really appreciate, and find ways to put that into the art when I'm able to do so. So I've been managing. When I'm not able to create, I just try to tell myself, like, this is a strange period that we're living in, and nobody really knows what we're doing. And you just have to just do the best you can and not be so hard on myself, and just know that if there's a day where I can't create something, I'm creating something that isn't what I like. It's just temporary, and there'll be another day where it will be better. So I'm trying to keep the hope and try staying motivated while working so many long hours. But I think right now at this point, I'm going to probably get away from my job and try to find something that fits more into the life of, so I can have balance with work and being able to create, because this is a part of my existence. It means a lot to me. And if I don't have enough time or energy to dedicate myself to it, then I need to make some sacrifices. So that's my experience. And so I thank you all for sharing your stories and your experiences with all of this. My advice to you all would just be, listen, like, this is hard. It is, but we will get through this. Keep fighting the good fight. Don't give up. And just use this time as a way to just get even more creative in how you put your art out there and how you create. And I encourage you all to keep doing that. So,
well, to bring up that point, Nita, that you had mentioned that whenever you're creating, even when you're tired, you feel like you're not being productive. I think a lot of artists are feeling that same pressure that, well, I'm blessed, I'm here, I'm sitting at home, I should be the most productive I've ever been. But like you said, there's so many other factors, especially with so many biopic people out in the world, realizing that our current, current people in the White House and the presidency, it's clear that they don't give a shit about any sort of like minorities or anybody who is not, in the same group as them. So, and then on top of that, like the whole pandemic, it's overwhelming. So it is understandable why, if you get overwhelmed and you can't create, it's fine. I feel like you create when you can, and if you can't, that's absolutely okay. I don't think it's right to pressure people into being like, well, you need to be productive because you're never going to have this chance again. That's not realistic. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. Anybody else want to add anything to what anyone else said?
Well, I guess another piggyback off of that. A lot of our self-worth as Americans are tied into our productivity. How productive are you at work? How productive are you at school? Did you do all your homework? Did you do all your tasks? And, you're seeing this mass exodus, if you will, from that mentality, the cult of work, where your productivity it's not equal to your self-worth, right? Like, you're worthy because you're alive. And that's enough. I know all of us are feeling overwhelmed. Cody said deer in headlights. You kind of just like, oh shit, kind of moment in wanting to create and express yourself and whatnot. But like, you're here, we're alive, we're surviving. And that in itself is powerful and beautiful. And I'm quite thankful to, have found this community in No Divide KC and other artists in Kansas City. And, look at us, we're still thriving despite it all. And productivity has nothing to do with it, right? So I think that's a powerful and beautiful thing. And so I'm very thankful for us to share a common experience of wanting to make but unable because everything, it just hurts and is overwhelming. But we're here and we're doing it. I think it's great.
That's wonderful. All right. Any last thoughts? I think we've decided that we'll come back and do a Q&A later on Facebook Live. Is that correct? We'll do that. Okay. So anyone have any last thoughts about everything? Nope. That's it. All right. Well, to everyone that watched this, we thank you so much for tuning in. To all of our artists out there, again, keep fighting the good fight. Listen to the wise words of Tanith and Kat, who said some really powerful things. We will get through this. We will make it. And, artists, we are resilient, and that's what we do. We know how to create out of nothing, and we will continue to do that. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for joining. And I love listening to what you all have to say. And I just wish the best of luck to all of you.
What's new in the neighborhood? Talking
All right.
trash, driving
Is that it? Is that episode 1
Serving
down?
up that
Are we done?
latest shit. It's NDKC hot dish. You know you wanna listen in. You wanna know the latest spin. It's a little swish with NDKC hot dish. NDKC hot dish.